This is Father Bonaventure Chapman, and welcome to Godsplaining. Thanks for all those who support us. If you'd like to donate on Patreon, you can do so with a monthly donation. You can look that up in the show notes. And thank you for those who like and subscribe. Please share this with anyone who you think would benefit from it. This is a special episode. This is a guest-splaining episode in studio, live with a human being. This is an episode with Mr. Todd Dailey. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a treat to be here in person. I appreciate you having me.
Well, it's great. Well, it is nice. We usually do these shows, out of set, out of studio, you could say. But it's nice to actually sit down with someone and talk to a real human being. So, Todd, could you tell us a little about yourself? Many of the viewers obviously will not, I suspect, know who you are. But we're going to get to in a second why you're actually here. But if you could tell a little background with yourself, and then we'll talk about what we're actually excited about to talk about tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a husband and a father of 3 boys. I hail from Indiana, north side of Indianapolis there, okay. Member of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish. I was a Purdue grad, and as a day job, I am in the insurance industry.
Okay, that's great. And Father Patrick is from Indiana, Indianapolis, just outside there. The Colts fan as well. So, yes. So I'm sure he'll be excited to see another Hoosier. Right? Is that what you all call it?
That's it.
That's basketball, though. It's a great movie. But we're not here to talk about insurance, although we could if that's necessary. We're here to talk about a particular product that I'm really excited about, a religious article. And this is going to be kind of, I don't want it to be a QVC sort of thing. I think what we want to talk about is the larger things that are going on with this product and about how to integrate spirituality in modern contemporary life with all technologies and such. But as people might have noticed, if you're driving, you probably haven't noticed this yet unless you're watching the episode on the dashboard. But there is a little box that says the Eternize, win the moment. And this is because Todd is the inventor of this cool, awesome thing that he's wearing. And I'm not only a fan, but I'm also a member. Is that the old thing I should say? The Eternize Cross, this is the Eternize crucifix here, which I've been wearing for months now when you first contacted me. So could you tell us what is this? This looks like from the viewer's angle, this is a sizable crucifix, not too big though, just normal size, but it's a little thicker than you'd expect because what is this thing?
Well, it is a haptic crucifix.
That's a cool name.
Yeah,
I like that.
It means it's got vibration capability. So a little bit of aid, additional tool to stay present in, as you mentioned, a very distracting world we live in today.
That's right. So Todd reached out at some point to the Godsplaining crew and with this cross and this idea and asked if anyone would be willing to look into this. And I'm a sort of Luddite in general, I suppose. I did physics, so I know how to program and things like that. But I tend to not be a big fan. If anyone's been around a Godsplaining retreat or something, you can get me into a dark discussion about AI. So I'm not a big technology kind of guy in general. But I was excited about this because I'm always looking for devotional help. I think even as a Dominican, we could always use plenty of help. And so I reached out and said, I'd love to give this thing a whirl and see how this goes. And I want to say, I was blown away. I really love this. I love this. This is a great integration. I think, as I mentioned before, this and iBreviary are like the best versions of spirituality that's been influenced by technology or technology that's at the service of spirituality. I think it's a really hard way to use technology well, since it has, sort of, an inhuman aspect to it in a way. And especially as Catholics, when we talk about having an incarnational sense of things, we believe in the sacraments and the symbols, and we love all these. So in some ways, we love the devotions, but electricity and technology seems to take us a little bit away from that. And iBreviary, of course, is really helpful, and many people have used this, and there might be some other apps. But this is it's unique. I haven't seen anything like it. And for a first run of anything, I'm really impressed because it's aesthetically beautiful. It feels fantastic. It's the right weight. It functions exceptionally well. The whole thing is just top to bottom. He's not paying me anything, ladies and gentlemen. It's just a fantastic thing that I want to go into. But tell me, what how'd this come about? This idea of having this kind of the vibrating cross.
Well, first, just very grateful for the high praise. And as a technology minor at Purdue, I've always had a heart for technology.
Okay.
I've known there's good in that. All things God creates is good. And I think it's just a matter of how we apply it. So for me, the story goes back a little over 7 years.
Okay.
I was sitting, I can still remember it to this day. We had just finished a couples life group, and it was a great session. It was the second week in a row, really powerful. And within a few minutes, though, I got this, I don't know how to describe this feeling, but kind of deflatedness shortly after this session. And it took me a few minutes to put my finger on it. But what I realized is that I knew that feeling was going to fade. That was going to be a fleeting feeling, because that had been a little bit of the story of the last couple of years for me. I had gotten back into my faith. So I was a cradle Catholic.
Okay.
Got away from the church for the better part of 10 to 15 years. And the birth of my oldest kind of pulled me back in.
Sure.
Which I think, many
have this story.
Relate to that. Yeah. And so I had gone to confession for the first time in 17 years. I had done Christ Renews His Parish retreat. I had several obviously very powerful sermons at Mass. And what I would find is within days, if not hours, that inspiration was gone. I was back into, the day-to-day, all the things to do, the kids, the work. And I was so discouraged by that God was providing an abundance of inspiration. And I just felt like I was squandering it. I felt like I was squandering this inspiration. And I remember sitting there that night, really this idea, was planted on my heart at that time, is millions of people wear a crucifix, right? But it's the same crucifix that we, people wore for hundreds of years, essentially. And it just, again, the idea was planted on my heart that a crucifix that has the technology embedded in it to compete for our attention, in the world today. So that's the short version.
No, I love, the whole thing it's a beautiful story, because I love the competing for your attention, because that's what God, in a sense, He's not going to force Himself on you, right? He has these sort of gentle reminders. He offers Himself, but He wants us to come to Him as well, to get used to Him. Sometimes He does the Paul kind of Saul of Tarsus conversion things, but oftentimes it's not our experience. These particular moments. And so the part of that, this kind of idea of bringing this to life in a way, has this emphasis on, that God slowly, gently, kindly, encouraging, reminding you. Okay, so you had this idea of bringing some technology to the cross, and it has a little buzzing. Well, how about this? Why don't you explain a little about this thing? Because I want to gush about it, but I want you to explain to the listeners and the viewers now, if people might have stopped off the road and now we're looking at this thing. And we'll give information, of course, in the show notes where you can find. The website's beautiful, of course. It's all technologically and aesthetically extremely good. Apple should watch out, because you all are great. You've done great work on this.
Well, God has, one of the things, before I jump into it, this journey over the last 7 years has been huge for my faith. To watch the people God has put in the way of this journey, and the way that they've answered the call to help out this project in so many different ways has been really fun to be a part of and to witness. But about the cross itself, so as you mentioned, it has the vibration capability, and essentially it's one of the things that I wanted to have into this was that it was fully personalizable. That I want this to be able to meet people wherever they're at. And if that is the Liturgy of the Hours, if that's a reminder to do an examen every hour, if that is a father who struggles with patience and wants a random reminder throughout the day to kind of pull himself back in, it's fully personalizable. So I kind of mentioned the types of programs right there, but a lot of people love the Holy Spirit mode, which is 5 random vibrations just randomly throughout the day. You could do it on a specific interval, whether that's 45 minutes or an hour, or you can set us for specific times. So I know for me, there are certain times of the day with 3 young kids that are more stressful, and I'm more on edge than others. And so I go back and forth between some of the programs, but I'll set it up for that as well. And then also intensity, in different patterns. Sometimes one of the things that I was a little worried about before this had even fully come to life was that you would normalize to it, right? The vibration, and then you'd just kind of get used to it. And so the ability to change the intensity and change the pattern were important elements.
Yeah, that's great. So I looked at it and thought, what am I going to use this for? How am I going to do this? What pattern do I want? This sort of thing. I hadn't thought about the Holy Spirit random one, but I have found I do an hourly chime kind of business, and it's not, of course, not chimes. It's sort of a ring there. I think I have it on the medium setting, maybe. And what it's meant for me is that every hour, it goes off. There's a little kind of vibration. And I mean, it's going to sound, I'm a philosopher, so I'm not an emotional guy usually, but I've always felt, I mean, the reason why I took the name Bonaventure is because I think theology has to be a scientia effectiva, an effective, a devotional science of knowledge of God. And the kind of, I have this beautiful image of him. Oh, do I have it around here? No, I can't find it. There it is. It's over by you, actually. Where it has, Bonaventure has his hand on his heart, right, with the book. And I've always found this is like the heart is where, all things get integrated. And so the way that Christ speaks to the heart and that we respond to him with heart, cor ad cor loquitur, to use the new Dr. Cardinal Newman's thing. So every hour, this little vibration goes off, and it allows me to stop for a second, and I do a quick examine, kind of not a Jesuit one, obviously, but something like it, to ask myself, how did that hour go? How was that? Was I charitable? Was I attentive to the Lord in situations? Did I just pass an hour without really having the thought of Him, or at least Immanuel Kant at some point? Like, what did I, what have I done that hour? And it's just kind of a constant reminder. And I'm impressed also that it hasn't normalized. I've been wearing this for, months, and it's because I think it's that little it's the kind of pulse thing that it's just different enough. It's not like a sound. It's just there. That it hasn't struck me yet where I have missed it, like you've kind of forgotten the sort of thing. Like it's still there at these times. And although we have plenty of bells around, it's fascinating. We have plenty. I live up in DC. We've got bells in the shrine, bells here at Thou Studies. So there's lots of hourly things that go off, but it's kind of again kind of cuts you to the heart. Like it's a personal one. Like, hey, pay attention, and but not like commanding, but rather inviting, as you say, like saying, hey, remember here. And because I chose to do this kind of thing, I want him to remind me. It's like I've made a deal that the Lord's allowed to pop in every hour and remind me, even if I forget, because he won't, he never forgets about me. And so this kind of helps me with that.
Well, I love that you're doing that on an hourly basis. I will say for me, before this started, days would go by, weeks would go by sometimes, and I would blink. It would be Thursday life group. I would blink, and then it would be Sunday, right?
Yeah.
For mass, and I would blink again. It would be Thursday again, and to have God gone from my consciousness for that long a period of time was just something I knew I wanted to try and do something about. And you mentioned one of the real pleasant surprises for us was how that vibration does hit you in the heart, and
yeah.
Obviously as we're on paper, you're thinking about this, and I think that was one of the most powerful things when we actually put it on the first time, that you do get that vibration. There is something about the proximity to the heart that does amps up the impact a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. And so, so it really is. It's fantastic. Let's talk a little about the thought process you had behind it, because people might think, this is kind of gimmicky or the sort of thing. They're like, this is just, taking technology and letting technology get more involved in my life. And this isn't actually like, how is this actually helping? Is this actually like opening a door to actually be moving farther away from something? Now, I want to say, I have not found that at all, but I'm impressed with the way you all have presented this thing and set this up. So I think you must have spent a ton of time reflecting on how to do this well, because it really is. It's not clunky. It's not odd. It's not gimmicky at all. It never occurred to me. Rather, it's just an incredibly great devotional help that is there. It's not like I'm always noticing it, but when I notice it, when it's going off, and it's a wonderful aid to my devotional life, and I think I'm sure it is to a lot of people as well. So how did you? talk me through a little bit the process of using, as you say, technology, which is harder to use than some natural things, I think, for sort of interesting philosophical reasons, but yet how to do it well with this kind of thing. So it's not, so it's an effective tool or instrument for this purpose, as opposed to some kind of other kind of mix or kind of mashup between a modern technology thing and some kind of old-fashioned thing.
Well, I've certainly had the fortune of time, and as I mentioned before, I think God has been very obvious. He's made it very obvious his involvement throughout this entire process, and just providing inspiration and different ideas in adoration and other places. This hasn't been anything that I have done it's not a money-making endeavor. This is a mission project for me. Yeah. So I think naturally that affords you the time to think through those things and just be thoughtful. I can tell you, for me, one of the challenges with this is I've had addiction to technology, and I've really struggled with it. I really have. My phone especially. It's one of those things where I work quite a bit. I've got one of those mindsets. It's centered around productivity and getting more done. And so for me, designing something that could be completely independent of the phone was a really big element of this. And so, as you mentioned, it's not something where something goes off and I've got to look at my phone and then I find myself checking email or checking scores or whatever else is on the phone to distract, but something where it's a single purpose notification. We've had a lot of users talk about that, because sometimes when you do get a notification on your watch or your phone, you're wondering, is this something I need to respond to? Is it a message? Is it another notification or a kid or a parent? And so for me, having something that it goes off and I don't need to touch anything, but I can use that to just kind of recenter and ensure God is fully present in my consciousness it's really, it has come to life in a manner that more than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, I think it's, I like fit to purpose. As you say, it's not like a multi-purpose room with multi-purpose notifications. It doesn't have bells and whistles. It doesn't have like new apps or ways you can sort of thing. It's at this one service. So the app that you put on the phone or something is just to set up the timing of it, and then it's gone. So you do not need it. Does not need the phone around at all. Like, you could probably throw out your phone after you could buy a phone, set it up, and then throw out the phone and be fine. But like the cross itself is entirely self-contained. It just needs to be charged. And I'm also impressed with, I don't know, you guys did this technology thing, but this thing holds charges for a long, long time, and it's not doing a lot, I suppose, right? But it's not one of those things that like you're going to have to put in every night and sort of thing, like the battery dies down or something. This is good to go. So maybe once I do it, like I think a once a week kind of routine of taking it off and putting it in its charger. And that's easy enough to remember, on Sunday night or something. But I like that it's really fit to purpose. It's designed to just be a cross that reminds you about Christ and your prayer life. That's it. It's not this other expansive thing. It's not a gateway to other technological, as you say, distractions, whereas so many things are. And that's really impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. It's something we have talked about a lot. As our team has assembled for this, just discussing those sorts of things. It's been a big part of it, because a lot of people have come to us and said, well, when this goes off, I might like to have a push notification with a prayer to say and those sorts of things. And it's just been, we have certainly entertained and considered that sort of thing for different people, but we've tried to be very, very thoughtful not to be part of the problem. And I not to say that there, things that are on the phone. There are amazing, wonderful apps on the phone, so many that use technology in a positive way. But for those of us that struggle to stay in that lane when they pick up the device, we've certainly tried to be thoughtful about that.
Yeah. Let's talk a little about maybe, and this is more, although it involves the cross as well, being a Catholic entrepreneur, and what you've learned and kind of are learning, you could say, as there might be other people listening who are also entrepreneurs or thinking about this. And you always wanted to be a business, be involved in business, I suspect. You're a man who's very, attentive, and you look like you're clearly focused and have, so how did you do this as a Catholic, and what does it mean to be a Catholic entrepreneur particularly with a Catholic product? Maybe this is the easiest, but maybe there might be some harder parts about that too, because it involves, you said, like, well, profit, this kind of stuff. So maybe talk through some of those things too for our business minded listeners who will want to have some insights into how to do something. I mean, so well, at this point, and there's hopefully a lot more to go. And I'm hoping this will be helpful. But yeah, the start of this process.
Yeah, well, as you say, more to go. I think a lot of those problems are things we're going to be probably dealing with more of as we do go forward, right? As this hopefully can help thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. I do think that's probably more where you face some of those challenges of how to live out good Catholic values and Catholic social teaching, in the midst of this. One of the things I will say about and I didn't do this necessarily to be an entrepreneur. I just had something on my heart, a problem I needed to solve, and I went after it. But there are so many communities out there. One that comes to mind is Sent Ventures. It's a wonderful Catholic entrepreneurship community that it's so inspiring to see so many different people to get together in these forums and see so many different people looking to innovate and push the faith forward in different ways, whether that's with technology or other means. That has been a real pleasant surprise to have visibility into others that are working on some wonderful projects.
Yeah, and what do you think are some of the dangers in terms of this? I mean, you've thought a lot about this, about how to do this well. What do you think are some of the dangers involved in the technological sphere or just the app sphere or the phone? With our kind of modern, so Pope Leo the 14th has talked about this, and this isn't just an AI thing, this is just a technology thing. Pope Leo the 13th, of course, starting with Rerum Novarum, talked about, the modern world and new things, Rerum Novarum, and I think in some ways we're still learning some of these new things and existing in an ever more distracted technological world. What are some of the dangers that you see and that you want to help people avoid in this kind of the goods and the bads, the chiaroscuro of technology and the faith?
Yeah, I would say just from our perspective, I think what we're trying to avoid is kind of falling into the trap that, a MBA might teach you from a business perspective, right? Which is get more people into the app, That's how you generate engagement and you get activity and you build user base and that sort of thing, because you're generally chasing profits, right? So we've been very thoughtful at this point. There's no subscription to the app, like those sorts of things. We're just trying to be very, very mindful of, because I think when you get into the business world, it's very easy to fall into that trap of doing what they tell you to do just to maximize revenue and maximize profits. And so we've tried to be, do our best to kind of fight that. We have kind of entertained and toyed around with certain functionality. AI is a real tough one right now. That is one that can be very, very dangerous if not used in the right way. And there are some apps out there like Truthfully and others that have tried to do a very, very good job of using it for a specific purpose. And I think for me, that is how I've tried to live, which is if there's a problem to solve and you want to solve and you kind of start there in alignment with your faith, then I think that's where it's better to start with the problem and see how technology can help with that, as opposed to, I think a lot of times technology can be a shiny object and, you start to wonder, what can I do with this? And I think that's where it can go off the rails.
Well, I think that's right. That when the technology becomes the kind of master, when you start, just think of the physiological or the phenomenological experience of, you see people wandering around their phones just looking at it, and you realize it's in a sense like the phone is walking them. I find, they're not walking with the phone. They're rather, it's, you can run into things. But there's just this kind of sense that actually the technology, you're getting sucked into it. You have this like Jumanji kind of effect of like being taken into the technology. And as technology gets so much more expansive, I think this is a real threat. And we put our, as you say, the distractions, the minds, this kind of stuff into this, so that then we become kind of servants of it. I think AI particularly is this way. I think it's, you feed it too much and all of a sudden it's doing everything for you. It's like the kind of computer, and it wants to be helpful, right? Or it doesn't anything, but like you project on it helpfulness and it's what it's designed for, but you start to kind of serve it algorithmically and things. I think this is true from a lot of technology.
I love how you said that, because I think there is so much stimuli put in front of us every day, right, for us to react to, and whatever that is in the form of social media. And kudos to those companies, the social media companies and digital marketing companies that have found a way to capture and maintain our attention at unprecedented levels, right? But I think the challenge there is that we're all given unique gifts and talents, right? And God has given those to us for a reason to do something with. And my fear is that as a society, we're turning into people who are just reacting to other things that are putting in front of us. And we don't take the time, spend the time in consciousness, understanding our own gifts and talents and how to deploy those, because obviously no one else is looking out for those if we're not. And so I love the quote, if you don't prioritize your day, someone else will.
Yes.
And so I think that happens a lot. And technology does a fantastic job of prioritizing our day. And I think it's a travesty that a lot of really beautiful gifts and talents are going to waste, because instead of people deploying those in positive, proactive ways, they're reacting to technology and stimuli that's been put in front of them.
Yeah, and I like obviously the cross isn't going to, the cross saves, but this crucifix itself does not of itself save your life, but it does help this kind of getting dragged in, letting someone else plan for it, because it does, whether you do 1 hour or 3 hours, it could be, or, Angelus kind of stuff. It does like jolt you back for a second and say, let me get control for a minute and let me offer that day to this moment and this forward, kind of that reflection again. For me, again, it's the examine. I think people have, I expect, different uses as well, but that kind of reminder that like, no, I'm getting dragged along again, but I want to stop for a moment and have a quick conversation with him. Very quick, of course. It can be, or spur on some longer time, in whatever but I'm usually running around to things, but it does stop me for a second, no matter where I am, and just say, now hold on, what's important in life?
Yeah, I love that you do that on an hourly basis to keep that clean mind and spirit. I've used the analogy at times. There's times in my faith where it's like coming out of the car wash. You come out of Mass and you're feeling really good and you're clean.
Yeah.
Maybe you hit confession on Saturday and you're just in a really good spot and you kind of black out spiritually. And, maybe there's a couple of few sins that you accumulate. And I draw that parallel to coming out of the car wash, right? You come out of the car wash, you've got a clean car. You may not even run to the grocery store because it's supposed to rain. You're trying to keep the car clean. Then you get caught out in the rain and whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that can be a discourager to really stay close to Christ and stay close to your faith. And so that's what I think is beautiful about how you have leveraged this to continue to kind of stay in that clean mind, clean heart, clean spirit phase.
Well, I think, and to add the virtue of penance involved here, so Dominicans love, as people might know, Dominicans love confession. We go to confession, of course, and we love hearing confessions. So some people are always like, well, I don't know if I have any sins, mortal sins or something. And Dominicans tend to be, anytime you want to go to confession, why? Because confession isn't just, I've put a bunch of sins in my basket, I need to get rid of these sins sort of thing, right? Sort of a transactional business. Dominicans believe that the spiritual life is a matter of the virtuous life. They're practices and habits that are supposed to be ingrained. And one of the virtues is penance, the ability and disposition, the kind of capacity to say I'm sorry to God. And so for what this reminds me is it gives me an opportunity every hour, and again, you could do it different, 3 hours or what have you, but of practicing the virtue of penance, because a lot of times, let's be honest, a lot of times I haven't thought about him all that much, or I haven't been charitable, I have been, rude to someone during that last hour or something. And so it gives me an opportunity, one, remind that he's there, but two, to say I'm sorry. And it doesn't have to be, this is the thing, it doesn't have to be a long, overdrawn kind of project. This isn't like I'm going to confession every hour sort of thing, or like a deep examine on sort of thing. It's just a quick kind of simple reminder of how did I do and what am I sorry for? And I find it, as you say, the kind of car wash thing, just like when I after a confession, I'm sure people have this experience of like where I'm back, I'm renewed. And I've been saying sorry to Christ and having his words of absolution are so important in life. In these little kind of daily things, because I'm not, if it's a big, these are little things each hour that I'm probably, in God's eyes, of course, I'm religious. I'm supposed to be doing a lot better than this. But I know he loves me, and I know that just saying sorry to him and asking him to help me to be better this next hour, that I can be a little more charitable, less irritable, or just spend more time with people because I'm taking a moment with him. There's just a lot of little reminders, and it's the little things. I tell people in spiritual direction often, frequency, shortness and frequency is kind of the best way to get into something. If you want to say, I want to have a good prayer life, it's like, fantastic. How's that going to go? And like, well, I was thinking of doing like 3 hours once a week on Fridays. Like, that's great. But the other days, what are you going to do? It's not going to help. If you do 5 minutes a day, only 5 minutes, yeah, you do 5 minutes every day. same time of the day, you will find there'll be a difference. And you might find, you might do 10 minutes something. But you have to start with frequency. And I find that it's so helpful it's aiding you. Again, at the service, it's not driving you, it's rather aiding you. This experience, the cross here, to remind you of that frequency, both of prayer, but I find of the virtue of penance, of growing in saying I'm sorry. And that helps you grow in mercy to other people around you too.
I love that. Beautiful sacrament, and I love that reflection.
Yeah. So we want to talk a little more about it, but I do, and I don't, you don't have to answer these questions, but obviously when you're starting something new, like, I take it that this wasn't the first kind of, you went right to this. Like, do you have any stories? I mean, any new business owner, I love watching Shark Tank. My dad's a chemical engineer, but he also did a lot of business. So I've always enjoyed the business world. I taught business ethics at Providence College. So I love the kind of starting something new and the kind of, oh dear, I can't believe we did that. So, I mean, did the first one like create shocks on you at some point? You had to be defibbed at some point. Like, do you have any cool stories of like, wow, that was a bad idea, or like, whoa, what happened here?
Yeah, well, I would tell you just the interesting thing about going through this journey. Ignorance is a beautiful thing, because if I had been able to see on paper what it was going to take to bring this to life, and I think, again, that's part of God's design and how he's architected this, I would have never started. I'll just be fully transparent. But one funny story, when we got an early version, here on the bottom where it charges, we were dealing with some corrosion.
Okay.
And so, we would kind of wipe it off to try and make sure that it charged. We had some charging issues, but a couple of times I wasn't in vicinity of anything, and so I licked the bottom of this, and I could feel the electricity. Come to find out, the initial version of the chip in here, which it's got its own memory chip, they had a circuitry issue, and there was a live current running through the bottom here, which is why we were having so many corrosion problems. So both my brother and I, who were testing this thing heavily, had several experiences of being shocked with the electricity that was running through the cross.
And about how long did it go from like idea to here we are with this guy?
Yeah, so
because he's pretty. I mean, I think he's pretty perfect where he is, so he's in good shape. But I'm sure you're always improving it. But
yeah, we were actually reflecting on the journey. We had a group to get together of people who have really been advisors and poured in just a few weeks ago, and one of the things that we were reflecting on is the different phases that we've been through. So the first thing was, I would say, probably almost twice the size of this. Just a 3D printed kind of big gray box that we were looking at. There were versions, I mean, this is obviously the smallest of the bunch.
Yes.
But a lot of iterations to get it to where we wanted it to be. Certainly been a long journey.
Any like insights in moral formation or virtue that came from this? I suppose everything, as you say, you might have gone with it if you've seen all of it ahead of time. So I think this, by the way, that might be a general experience of a good thing. I've thought about the religious life. I assume it's true for marriage too. The reason why that you're married after 10 years or something, or 5 years, or 15 years, or 50 years, is different than the reason that you want to be married. And I think it's true for a Dominican or religious life too. The why I wanted to be a Dominican on vocations weekend was not the same reason that I want to be a Dominican, that I still want to be and love being a Dominican, because you can't see everything ahead of time. So it's good to tell people, like, don't worry if you don't, it gets better and it gets more complicated, and you might not have signed up initially, but that's how things go.
Yeah, it's the beauty of it. I had a friend reach out who has been a beta tester for us. He reached out, and this is probably a month ago, and he had a really bad eye infection. And he was in the doctor's office, and they were giving him the reality. It had been going on for about 2 weeks, which apparently is kind of the threshold for permanent vision damage, and telling him that was a very likely outcome at that point. And in the middle of that appointment, the cross went off. And I get goosebumps just talking about it, because he, emotionally kind of conveyed to me the presence, feeling God's presence in that moment, and knowing, I mean, that's an anxious time. You're talking about your vision, and something you use every single day to know that God was with him, whether or not God was involved in what the random timing of that going off, but just the reminder that God's with him and everything's going to be okay. There's those moments, to your point, that just make it all worth it. When I first started this journey, it was to solve a problem for myself, and to hear people's stories, and how this has impacted people in different ways in those, very tender, vulnerable moments, or just in habituation, has made it all worth it.
Okay. Well, Todd, we could talk a while about this, of course. But I want to kind of wrap up with, what should I say? This is great. I'm grateful for you all guys, because I do think that technology is so hard to do well in the religious life. I think sometimes it can creep in because it's not just distracting, but as you say, it's kind of dominating and controlling. I don't know if you did much philosophy in college or something, but Martin Heidegger is a great German philosopher in the 20th century and talked a lot about how technology is not just a thing, but rather a frame, in framing that kind of then gives us a new form to life that takes away from the other human aspects to it. So we live in this kind of inframing world where things show up as like resources and all this. And I take that very seriously, that we can stumble into technology as a sort of background condition of our lives, that then all of a sudden we're playing into it, and then it starts playing us, and then we've lost all of our agency. So I'm entirely aware of the temptations and the dangers in this area, and I'm super skeptical of many things. But that being said, all of it, this is fantastic. I've been absolutely blown away by it. As I said, I think if it's between this or iBreviary, I'll take this over iBreviary. And iBreviary is great for traveling. It's easy to carry when you have to carry 2 breviaries or something around, and it's a nightmare. And it's good, and I love iBreviary, sort of thing. But this, is even stronger, a stronger use, I would say, of technology, because it really does make technology at the service of your prayer life and of your spiritual life, and kind of taking control. I take it, I don't know, it's kind of like a hammer. That's like a great tool, because it doesn't demand you to like hammer things. It just, when you need to hammer something, there it is, it's right there. And I feel like this is kind of like a spiritual hammer. Like, it does get you, and that's it. The hammer does not demand things of you when you're not hammering. It doesn't, like, you don't get tempted to start hammering walls with it. It's just a perfect tool for the job it does. And I feel like this is kind of like a hammer. It's perfect for what it's meant to do. You don't feel like you have to get sucked into other things. It's just single purpose, spectacular application of technology at the service of prayer. So I'm grateful that you spent all this time not knowing ahead of time that this would come about, because I think it really is it's really beneficial to people. And it's also a model and icon of that this can be done. And I hope maybe some people you've got a proof of concept, and hopefully at some point you'll write up and think about reflecting on like how you got here so that you did this and threaded the needle of technology for a spiritual life well. Because, and again, people just have to try it. They'll have to experience. It's really from start to opening the box to putting on and starting with it. It's really spectacular.
Well, a lot of credit to St. Maximilian Kolbe
gosh,
who I've really leaned into
patron
in this journey. He really blazed the trail from a technology perspective and using it well, right? And I think you nailed it.
That's good.
When you start with a mission to, whether it's spread the faith or deepen your faith for yourself or others, I think that's the lens through which to look as to technology as a tool, as opposed to technology, as you said,
it's a way of life or some other thing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
So I'm certainly grateful for your open heart to even give it a shot and try it. And it's been a wonderful journey, and
it's spectacular. And so this episode is getting aired in December, and so obviously, if anyone's thinking about like what to give their loved ones or something at any time, birthdays or otherwise, but if you're around the Christmas season, you want to give something at Christmas, this is a great. It's real. I can't recommend enough. It's a real great gift. Where can people? Could you tell us maybe where people could find more about this, where they can purchase this sort of thing, or what any information that you have about the Eternize Cross?
Surely. The probably easiest thing to do is go to myeternize.com. So my in front of eternize.com, and information's there. You could buy there. We're certainly going to try and be at a lot of the conferences. So coming up is Seek in January.
Sure.
So we will be there. And we're going to try and do more of that. E6 is in the Midwest, a local men's conference. We'll be there, and just looking for opportunities to get this in front of people and see how it can help them deepen their faith.
That's fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us, Todd. It's been a delight, and I'm grateful. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, it's been a real treat to be here in person, so thank you again for having me. It's been wonderful.
My pleasure. Turn now to you, viewers, once again. Thanks for listening and watching this episode of Godsplaining. And thanks for all those who support us. If you'd like to do so on Patreon, please do so. But you can do that by looking at the show notes as well, and you'll find some information about finding Patreon and how to support us there. Please like and subscribe to this episode. Share it with people, especially if you have people who are thinking about something for Christmas or any gift, or if you're just looking for yourself to say, hey, you know what? I'd love not to be as distracted. I'd love to be called back to attention from distraction by the technology supposed to be distracting me, but rather called back by Christ and reminded about who I really love and what my life is all about. I really do recommend it. It's just a great service and a great spiritual gift, and it allows us to actually pray more. So if you have any people in your life you'd like to share that with, please do so with the episode. Also, please, as always, pray for us, and we'll be praying for you. And we'll catch you next time on Godsplaining.